dad used to rent this house way out in the middle of nowhere. A good 45 minutes from any town. The closest neighbor was another 15 minutes away. On this property were several enclosures for raising pheasants. These belonged to the property owner, so my dad had no responsibility towards them, other than to notify the owner if he saw anything wrong. He was high school buddies with the owner, so they were on good terms. Well, one morning he notices something very wrong. In the pheasant enclosure furthest from the house, with a good 50 or so birds. Every single one of them had been slaughtered overnight. What was even weirder was that it didn't seem to be an act of predation. None of the birds seemed to have been consumed. Luckily the owner had cameras, and they got to see what really happened. So sometime in the middle of the night, a man neither of them recognized had wandered onto the property. He made no attempt to approach the house, but instead crawled under the enclosure's fence, and proceeded to catch and stab each pheasant with a knife, while wearing a headlamp. They caught the entire event on camera, from him entering the property till he left early in the morning. The police were called, but nothing ever came of it. My dad was so freaked out from the whole event that he made us stay with our mom for several weeks while he slept in bed with a gun. The property owner tightened up security with new fences and alarms. He even bought some guard dogs. They were very well trained and super friendly to anyone who'd approach them during the day. Nothing ever happened again on that farm, and the bird-killing psycho was never found. When I was young, I used to live a fair way out from town, about 50 kilometers to the nearest store, so we never saw people. When I was about 11, my mom left me home alone for a couple days while she went to an equine show. All fine and dandy, I was happy. Got to stay up late playing video games. Anyway, 1 a.m. rolls around and I head to my room to get ready for bed. I flick on my light and out my window into pitch darkness, I somehow see a tall 7-foot human shadow walk past my window. It was as dark as the night outside, but somehow I could see it outlined in the darkness. The veranda outside was old and rickety. It would creak and groan when a 20 kilograms dog walked on it, but this thing moved completely silently. It didn't stop or look in my window when the light came on, just walked casually by like it didn't even notice. The direction it was walking, it would walk off the veranda into the horse stables and trigger the auto lights, never triggered the lights. Either way, it scared the living shit out of me. I panicked as a kid does and tried to call mom, couldn't get her on the phone. So I camped in the living room inside a blanket fort with dogs for safety. I was alive and caretaker for a 94-year-old woman with Alzheimer's for about 1.5 years. She had moved into her daughter's home deep in the woods of middle of nowhere, Washington. Marie was prone to say weird things, like that her sister, deceased, mother, deceased, and husband, deceased, were in the house or outside regularly. I had been working with dementia patients for a few years by this point, so it never bothered me. Marie was terrified of the woods. She would tell me about how there's dangerous animals out there, and I could get lost easily, so I must always stay inside. She was also worried about her mother and husband having to travel through them. Again, this wasn't worrisome behavior given her health condition. I had been working with her for about 6 or 7 months when I would start waking up to her walking down the halls in the middle of the night. Sundowning is fairly normal for people with Alzheimer's, so again I wasn't troubled by this, but she started going to a specific window and giggling, like she was interacting with someone outside the window. When asked what she was doing, she'd say, "My mother is out there." Kind of weird, but there's a different perception in her world now. One night in dead of winter, her daughter and I are woken to the blaring of the house's alarm system. The daughter and I checked the doors and windows, none of which seemed to be disturbed or unlocked. The only thing missing is Marie. She is nowhere in the house. Panicked, I rush outside to find her while the daughter continues to search the house. No tracks anywhere, no disturbed snow, nothing. After 10 to 15 minutes of yelling, searching the woods, I start making my way back to house where her daughter was already in the process of calling 911. As I approach the house, I see Marie. Standing outside the window, she normally stood up giggling. There's not a single footstep in the snow around her, nor is she cold to the touch. She's just standing there laughing at nothing, didn't even know she was outside. The late night window visits became more frequent after this, but less happy. She'd get combative with the window and scream at whoever she believed to be there.